The dust motes dance in the solitary shaft of light piercing the heavy curtains. Miniature galaxies adrift in the stale air. Your fingers, calloused and bearing the faint, lingering scent of old paperbacks and forgotten coffee, trace the faded grain of the wooden table. Each breath a quiet rhythm, a small rebellion against the silence that has become your constant companion. A shroud you pulled around yourself like a penance. The city's distant hum, a low, ceaseless thrum, rarely penetrates the thick glass of your window. A barrier you erected long ago, not against sound, but against the world. The quiet hums, a low, persistent drone in the small apartment that has become your fortress, your prison. Days bleed into weeks, marked only by the shifting light across the floorboards, the dwindling stack of unread novels, the ritualistic brewing of black coffee, the weight of unanswered questions, of betrayals both real and imagined, had settled like silt at the bottom of a murky pond, obscuring all clarity, leaving only the dull ache of a future unlived. The ghost of a case gone cold, a failure that stripped you of your shield, your purpose. A reputation shattered like cheap glass clings to you, a second skin. It is why you are here, adrift, a derelict vessel beached on the shores of your own making. A sharp, insistent rap shatters the quiet, an unwelcome intrusion that vibrates through the very floorboards. Your gaze, slow to focus, drifts to the door, a portal you rarely open. The uniform is a uniform, the figure within, a stranger. Your muscles, taut from disuse, tense. Another rap, firmer this time, an echo of authority you once commanded, now only resented. You rise, a creak in your knee, a protest from a body accustomed to stillness. Each step across the worn rug feels like a betrayal of your carefully constructed inertia. Through the peephole, a face, impassive, framed by the brim of a cap. His eyes, a shade you cannot discern, hold a gaze that is firm, unyielding. The door swings inward, revealing the officer in full. His posture is stiff, formal, his presence a stark contrast to the soft decay of your interior world. He holds a small, official notebook, its pages pristine. "Are you Chen?" His voice is a low rumble, carrying the weight of disruption, of the outside world crashing in. You nod, a single curt motion. The name, your name, feels alien on his tongue, a relic from a past life. His apologies for the intrusion. He begins, though his tone suggests no such sentiment. But we have reason to believe you might be able to assist us. This concerns a development. He pauses, his gaze sweeping over the Spartan apartment, lingering for a fraction too long on the empty bookshelves, the dust-laden surfaces. The murder of Elias Thorne, he states, the name dropping like a stone into a still pool. He was found this morning at the offshore law office with shred bins and locked safes where he worked. A high-profile individual, as you might imagine. Elias Thorne. The name rings a faint bell, a distant echo from the world of power and influence you had deliberately abandoned. The offshore law office with shred bins and locked safes, a fortress of paper trails and hidden assets, a place where secrets were currency. A fitting end, perhaps, for a man who trafficked in such things. And how does this involve him? You press, your jaw tightening. You want him to leave, to take his news and his uniformed presence back to the bustling streets, to the world you no longer inhabit. The officer shifts his weight, his gaze hardening slightly. He was found at the scene, close to the victim. Her name is Lena. The name strikes you like a physical blow, a sudden sharp pain in your chest. The word hangs in the air, thick with unspoken history. A chasm of resentment and regret that stretched between you for years. Disbelief wars with a sickening lurch in your gut. Your sister involved in a murder? The thought is absurd, Yet the officer's unwavering gaze offers no room for doubt. "Lena," he confirms, his voice devoid of inflection. "She's currently being held for questioning." A tremor, faint but undeniable, runs through you. The quiet life, the carefully constructed shell, begins to crack, fissures appearing under the sudden, brutal pressure. The image of Lena, sharp and defiant, flashes in your mind. The memory of her last accusation, a poisoned dart, still stings, a festering wound you had learned to ignore. He had blamed you, of course, for everything, for the ruin, for the downfall, for the quiet capitulation. But beneath the old wounds, a deeper current stirs. A protective instinct, long dormant, awakens, a primal roar against the injustice of the claim. The thought is a bitter gall in your mouth. The officer watches you, a silent assessment in his posture. He sees the flicker of recognition, the sudden tension in your shoulders, the abrupt loss of your carefully maintained composure. "We thought you'd want to know, given your relationship." Want to know? The words are a cruel jest. You wanted to erase her from your mind, to sever the last frayed thread that bound you to the life you lost. But forgetting is a luxury you can no longer afford. The familiar tension in your shoulders, a phantom limb of your former life, reasserts itself. The quiet, determined resolve you thought you'd buried years ago begins to claw its way back to the surface. The world you abandoned is pulling you back, claw by relentless claw. The smell of the city, of exhaust fumes and damp concrete, drifts in through the open door, a scent you once knew intimately. You push back from the table, the scrape of wood against wood a harsh counterpoint, the officer's steady gaze. The air shifts, thickens with an unspoken challenge. Your eyes, once clouded by resignation, now hold a rekindled spark, a dangerous glint. Your voice, rusty from disuse, emerges low and steady, carrying an authority you had almost forgotten you possessed. The words, "Want to know?" still echo, a chime of inevitability. You move, a ghost in your skin, through streets both familiar and foreign. The city, once a tapestry your triumphs, now unravels into a landscape of dread. Each brick, each shadowed alley, whispers of past failures, of the case that devoured your career and left you hollow. But Lena's name, spoken with such certainty by the news anchors, drags you back, a hook in a raw wound. The air in the visitor's room is thin, sterile, tasting of disinfectant and unspoken fears. Across the reinforced glass, your sister's face is a canvas of defiance and despair. Her eyes, once pools of vibrant mischief, now hold a wild, cornered light. "Chen, you have to believe me. They're trying to frame me. You know they are." Her hands, usually so expressive, are clasped tight, white-knuckled against the steel table. You observe the slight tremor in her jaw, the barely perceptible flinch when a guard passes. This isn't the Lena of impulsive rages, the one prone to emotional outbursts. This is a woman terrified, but also resolute. Her denial is not a plea for mercy, but a demand for justice. You search her face for any tell, any flicker of guilt you've been trained to spot, but find only a raw, unyielding innocence. It's a bitter pill to swallow, this unwavering belief in her, after all the years of distance, the resentment that festered between you. Yet, a fragile seed of doubt begins to sprout in the barren ground your cynicism. Who would want to frame you? Your voice is a rusty hinge, unused to such inquiries. Protagonists swear, protagonists don't know. But it's connected to his work. They barely knew each other. A business dinner, that's all it was. Protagonist went home. Her words tumble out, frantic, tripping over each other. The detective, he just keeps asking the same things, like he already knows the answer, like it's already decided. The visit ends abruptly. The guard's hand a firm presence on your shoulder. As you walk away, his desperate plea echoes. Please, Chen, don't let them do this. The first step your reluctant return is not a stride, but a stumble. You can't go through official channels. Your badge is a relic, our reputation a scar. So you begin as you always did, with observation, with the quiet gathering of fragments. You visit the periphery of the crime scene, a cordoned-off luxury apartment building, now a magnet for gawkers and news vans. The air still hums with residual police activity. A few uniformed officers standing guard, their faces bored. The narrative spun by the media and, implicitly, by the authorities, is too clean, too convenient. A crime of passion, they suggest, a jealous altercation. But you know passion leaves its own chaotic signature, and this case, as presented, feels almost too tidy. You sift through public records, news archives, anything you can access without raising an alarm. His professional life seems far more complex than the simple personal motive attributed to his death. One detail gnaws at you. Thorne's primary place of business. It's listed as an offshore law office with shred bins and locked safes, tucked away in a district known for its discreet financial dealings. Not the kind of place a simple business dinner acquaintance would typically frequent. You drive past it, a sleek modern building of tinted glass and polished steel, an edifice designed to be impenetrable. From your vantage point across the street, you observe the steady flow of people, impeccably dressed men and women, briefcases clutched tight. No overt signs of distress, no police tape, nothing to suggest a recent tragedy linked to one of its key figures. Yet, the presence of the shred bins, clearly visible through a ground floor window, strikes a discordant note. Why such an emphasis on destruction? And the locked safes, not just one, but a series of heavy-duty vaults mentioned in a casual online article about the building's security, hint at secrets meticulously guarded. You remember the detective's dismissive tone on the news, the way he'd brushed aside questions about Thorne's business associates. A clear-cut case, he'd stated with an air of finality. The very speed of Xi's arrest, the quick closure, the case, now feels less like efficiency and more like a deliberate act of containment. The official story claims Lena was the last person to see Thorne alive, leaving the apartment shortly before his body was discovered. Yet, the timeline, as reported, has a small, almost imperceptible gap. A window of time, perhaps 15 minutes, between Xi's supposed departure and the cleaner's arrival. You notice the lack of any mention of Thorne's security. A man of his stature, dealing with offshore finance, would surely have personal security, or at least a robust building system. But the reports focused solely on Lena's presence, as if all other variables were irrelevant. This omission, rather than a detail, feels like a gaping hole. The tension coils tighter in your chest. Against, he is built on a foundation of convenience, its edges too smooth, its narrative too unblemished. The official version, presented as an open and shut affair, begins to fray at the edges, revealing the first glimpses of a carefully constructed facade. Someone wants this case closed, and closed quickly, and they've chosen Lena to be the convenient scapegoat. Your sister's desperate plea, once a burden, now feels like a summons. And the hunt has begun. The periphery crime scene hums with a sterile quiet, a manufactured calm that belies the violence it contains. Your gaze sweeps past the yellow tape, past the uniformed figures who stand like statues, guardians of a truth they barely grasp. You carry no badge, no official mandate, only the gnawing certainty that the obvious answers are seldom the true ones. Your sister's freedom, her very life, depends on the unseen, the overlooked, the whisper lost in the clamor. You retreat, not in defeat, but to the digital fears that echo louder than any shouted accusation. Hours bleed into one another, fingers dancing across a keyboard, sifting through public records, archived news, financial filings. His life, a flat line of predictable transactions, until a faint ripple catches your eye. A subsidiary, dissolved years ago, connected to a shell company, its name appearing once, fleetingly, in an obscure property dispute from a decade past. It's a ghostly machine, a forgotten thread. The official investigation, you are certain, has already dismissed it as irrelevant noise. The sign above the entrance reads, in discreet, elegant script, Offshore Law Office with Shred. There he, either there, and there's kept. Your reflection. The lobby's marble floor shows a face etched with a weariness that goes bone deep. A ghost of thee, that you once were. A receptionist, her smile a brittle veneer, intercepts you. May I help you? Her tone suggests she already knows the answer is no. I'm looking for information regarding a client, a Mr. Sterling, associated with a dissolved entity called Aegis Holdings. You state. Your voice a low current beneath the surface calm. You offer no name, no credentials, just a directness that sometimes unnerves. Her eyes, devoid of warmth, flick to a screen, then back to you. We have no current client by that name. Aegis Holdings ceased operations many years ago. All related records would have been archived or, if beyond retention periods, disposed of. Her gaze drifts towards a series of large, industrial-grade shred bins lining a corridor visible behind her desk, then to a bank of imposing steel-plated locked safes built into the far wall. The message is clear. What they hold tight, or they destroy. I understand, you reply, your voice even. Perhaps a former colleague, someone who handled older cases? You push subtly, seeking a crack in their polished facade. I wouldn't know, she says, her tone now clipped, a wall descending. Is there anything else? It's a dismissal, polite but firm. You offer a non-committal gesture, letting your eyes linger on the safes, then the shred bins, imagining the volume of paper, the weight of secrets they must consume. You turn to leave, but as you pass a half-open door, you catch a snatch of hushed conversation from within. Priority. The voice is male, urgent, cut short as the door closes fully. Your steps falter, then resume, a slow, deliberate pace. They do have a sterling file, and it's a priority. A seed of suspicion takes root, hardening in your gut. The next step is a yorded risk, a giornanto the lion's den. You drive to the precinct, the red brick building looming, a monument to a life you irrevocably lost. The faces inside are a gallery of ghosts, some nodding curtly, others turning away, their discomfort a palpable thing. You make your way to a back office, the air thick with stale coffee and unspoken accusations. A detective, a man named Henderson, a former colleague whose career you inadvertently overshadowed, looks up from his desk, his expression a mixture of surprise and resentment. What the hell are you doing here? His voice is low, laced with a warning. Just following up on a lead, you say, leaning against the doorframe, trying to project a casualness you don't feel. Specifically, his involvement with Aegis Holdings, a dissolved entity from years ago. Did your people look into that? Henderson's jaw tightens. He shuffles papers on his desk, avoiding your gaze. We've got a solid suspect. Your sister. He spits out the last word like a curse. Avant! You push off the doorframe, stepping closer. His past, no matter how distant, is never truly irrelevant. Did you check financial records? Did you visit the offshore law office with shred bins and locked safes to either their motive? A theru should back other eaters good. His wother-reeled threat. Their horror mean weather-ential connections to offshore accounts and shell companies? You press, your voice a low growl. Are you telling me this aspect was fully investigated and cleared? Henderson slams a fist on his desk. I'm telling you that we are handling this. And you, a disgraced former detective, have no business interfering. This case is closed, Chen. Or it will be very soon. The emphasis on closed is too strong, too defensive. It's not just an oversight, it's a deliberate blind spot. The pieces click into place. The receptionist's evasiveness, the hushed conversation about the sterling file at the law office, Henderson's fierce resistance. Someone, somewhere, is orchestrating this. Someone wants Sterling's past to remain buried, and your sister is the convenient shovel. The realization hits you with the force of a physical blow, stripping away any lingering doubt. This isn't just about clearing her name. It's about exposing a deliberate deception. The tension in your shoulders tightens. A coil of resolve. You are no longer just a brother fighting for family. You are a hunter, and the scent of a deeper conspiracy now heavy the air. The pieces click into place, not with a gentle hum, but a jarring clatter the quiet chamber of your mind. The emphasis you're losed is too strong, too defensive. The receptionist's evasiveness, the hushed conversation about the sterling file at the law office, the lawyer's fierce resistance. These are not isolated incidents. A network, a tightly woven web, stretches its invisible threads, orchestrating a silence that hums with intent. You feel the pull, a magnetic force drawing you deeper into the shadow play. Your instincts, long dulled by the bitter taste of past failures, sharpen with a hungry edge. This isn't just about your sister anymore. It's about the truth itself, buried beneath layers of calculated deception. The building itself is a monument to discretion, its polished surface reflecting a distorted version of the city feed. Inside, the air is thin, sterile, scented faintly with ozone and old paper. A reception-air woman with eyes that hold too much knowledge and lips pressed into a thin line greets you with an practiced, empty smile. You offer a fabricated name, a plausible story about a potential acquisition, watching her carefully as she types, her fingers moving with a slow, deliberate rhythm. You are Chen, and you are determined. Your gaze drew a hawk's circling sweep over the anodyne lobby. There, tucked against a far wall, a row of industrial-sized shred bins stand like silent sentinels, their steel jaws hinting at devout bins. Near them, a wall of locked safes gleams, impenetrable fortresses of metal and combination. You note the small, almost imperceptible tremor the receptionist's hand as she gestures towards a waiting area. The associate will be with you shortly. Her voice is a smooth, practiced monotone, but your ear catches to light inflection, a subtle tension beneath the calm. You settle into an uncomfortable chair, feigning patience, but your eyes are busy, dissecting the scene. A junior associate, young and eager, emerges from a corridor carrying a slim folder. He catches the receptionist's eye, and a quick, almost imperceptible glance passes between them, a silent communication that speaks volumes. He approaches you, his smile a little too wide, a little too rehearsed. "How may we assist you today?" His voice is light, but his eyes, darting around the lobby, betray a nervous energy. You launch into your pretense, weaving a tale of corporate ambition and complex legalities. As you speak, you guide the conversation, subtly nudging it towards the firm's client roster, its areas of expertise, its history with the kind of high-stakes, opaque dealings that require offshore services. The associate, eager to impress, offers snippets of information, carefully curated, yet your trained ear picks up the faint echoes of what he isn't saying. He mentions a recent project, a large holding company that just finalized an acquisition, a deal that required significant discretion. He doesn't name the company, of course, but he lets slip a detail. The acquisition involved a smaller, struggling tech firm. A spark ignites in your mind. The murder victim, you recall, had a small struggle in your startup. You press gently, asking about the nature of such discretion. The associate stiffens, his smile faltering. "Our clients value their privacy, mister. We are bound by strict confidentiality." His gaze drifts once again towards the row of shred bins, then to the locked safes. Sterling Holdings Group, the murmur, as if Tobin's watching the associates Reactio safe sales, a flicker of genuine alarm replacing his practiced composure. He clears his throat, his gaze now fixed on you, wary. Protagonist, I'm afraid, protagonist, I'm not familiar with that specific entity, Mr. Chen. He stammers, but his voice holds a tremor you can almost taste. Protagonist need to consult with a senior partner regarding your unique requirements. You've struck gold. Sterling Holdings Group, it seems. Isare file. As you rise to leave, a sense of unease settles over you, heavier than the sterile air. You've barely stepped out of the building, the glass door sliding shut behind you with a hushed sigh, when your phone vibrates. A voice, deep and resonant, speaks without preamble. Your asking questionnaire answers have already been provided. The voice is calm, almost serene, yet it carries the weight of crushing stone. Some doors once closed are best left undisturbed, and for those you still hold dear. The line clicks dead. The unspoken implication hangs heavy, a blade poised above her. They know about your past, your vulnerabilities. This isn't just a random act. It's a deliberate, calculated move. You are no longer just investigating a murder. You are now entangled in a deadly game, playing Aryan unseen hand that knows your every weakness. The determination in your gut hardens into unyielding resolve. You will not be deterred. The Dior's flat drone is a dirge in your ear. The echo of the caller is a chill that addles deep in your bone. You're at your past, your vulnerabilities. The air in your small living, usually a refuge, now feels thin, poisoned. The stake, your lies, is she. A frantic energy surges tear you, a cold current of dread. You snatch your phone, fingers fumbling over the keypad, calling the legal representative Lena's public defender assigned. It rings once, twice, a third time, each chime a hammer blow against your ribs. Then, a click. This is the legal representative's office, a prim voice states, devoid of warmth. It's Chen. I need an update on she. Now. Your voice is rough, a jagged edge of anxiety. A pause, heavy with unspoken implication. Mr. Your sister was involved in this altercation this afternoon. They're claiming she assaulted another inmate. Her parole hearing, previously scheduled for next month, has been indefinitely postponed. And there are talks of additional charges. The words hit you like a physical blow, not a threat, an execution. This isn't just about keeping her locked up. It's about burying her deeper, silencing her. It's a calculated move to show you the consequences of digging. They're not just watching you, they're acting. The call ends abruptly, leaving you staring at the blank screen, the world narrowing to a pinprick of rage. You can't protect her from here, from the outside, not when they control the inside. You need eyes, ears, hands where yours can't reach. A name, long buried, the recesses of your disgraced past, surfaces. A name you'd never utter again. A resource you'd vowed to abandon. A man you once called an informant, then a rival. Now, perhaps, your only hope. You move, driven by a primal need to act. The city outside your window is a blur of indifferent light and sound as you navigate the familiar Forgototes to the city's underbelly. He sits hunched over a steaming mug, a nether spread before him like a shield. Thought you were gonna good. I need help, you state, cutting through the pleasantries. Your gaze is unwavering, a direct challenge. Lena's in trouble. They is making it personal. He sips his coffee, his eyes, sharp and knowing, assessing you. Personal is always the most dangerous kind of trouble, Chen. What do you want? I need eyes inside, you explain, your voice tight with urgency. Protection. A way to make sure she's safe, and to know what they're trying to pin on her next. Whatever you need, if I can deliver it, it's yours. Just tell me what you know, what you can do. He considers this, his gaze drifting to the street outside, then back to you. Justice, Chen. You always did have the way with pretty words. A corporate lawyer, deep pockets, deeper connections. Sensitive matters for a lot of high-profile clients. And he operates out of an offshore law office with shred bins and locked safes. Your breath catches. The perfect place to bury secrets, to launder reputations, to vanish a wide office of money. Bin's power flows through their network has been their look at therer for months. Therer over time with therein since the murder. A Netherian washes over you, momentarily there or she. This isn't just about a murd. They're a network, a web of influence their office. The former contact, see there slowly. Protagonist will make some calls about your sister, he says, a hint of grudging respect in his tone. See what can be done to keep the wolves at bay, at least for a while. But getting into that office? And lethal. Lethal is fine, you respond, your voice low and steady. Protagonist, I'm tired of being hunted. You have an unlikely ally, a dangerous lead, and a sister whose life hangs by a thread. The stakes have never been higher, and you, Chen, are walking devoice o' the heart of the fire. The pulse throbs against your skin as you navigate the labyrinthine alleys. A cold wind whispering forgotten names. The air, thick with the scent of damp concrete and distant exhaust, offers no solace, only a stark reminder of the you theoined. The unlikely ally, a silhouette against the flickering neon, a warier face remains cloaked in shadow, a deliberate anonymity that speaks volumes of their trade. The target. The ally's voice is a low rasp, like gravel shifted by a tide. An offshore law office with shred bins and lock days. They handle the city's quiet moneyism that doesn't like sunlight. You nod. The plan already etched. The offices of your mind bins you are not Chen. The disgraced form Yerk safes a ghost Therides veins, seeking the rot at its dithering looms. A monolithorous and polished stone. In very secrets it holds. There is stale, heavy wuth, their hereumber feels precarious. A fragile piece that your presence, their hand gestures, a silent language pointing you there. Inside, the space airculate, a testament to ordered Ceaseless scan the room, searching for the Theraruths. The ally drifts towards a bank of imposing Theres, their maw gaping, ready to devour inconvenient histories. You, however, are drawn to the heavy-set safes, built into the wall behind a discreet panel. Their steel faces bins first. The ally murmurs, their voice barely a breath. Sometimes, the sloppy ones leave fragments. You begin sifting through the discarded detritus. A slow, meticulous parabinsetted paper, a confetti of forgotten deals, slides through your gloved fingers. Only the mundane detritus of corporate life. Your gaze keeps returning to the safes, an instinct pulling you toward the unbreachable. These, you indicate the Saftir voice a low growl. These hold the real weight. The ally approaches, their tools glinting, the faint light filtering from the street lamps below. Time stretches, each second a taut wire threatening to snap. You stand watch, your senses stretched thin, listening for any shift the buildings see voice him. A floorboard creaks the distance, a phantom sound, and your hand instinctively goes to the worn grip of the pistol tucked into Youthit band. Only the building settling, or perhaps your othevs. With a soft thud, the safe door swings inward. Inside, neat stacks of folders, bound ledgers, and a series of encrypted data drives rest, undisturbed. Your fingers brush against the spines of the binders, feeling the WT of the information they contatheus is the heart of the matter. You pull out a Yather-bound ledger, its pages filled with meticulous handwritten entries. Code names, dates, and staggering sums of money flow across the aged paper. As your eyes trace the columns, a pattern emerges, a web of interlocking shell corporate feeding into the next, obscuring the true beneficiaries. But it's the names, scribbled the margins, that make your breath catch. Not just corporate entities, but individuals. A prosecutor, known for his unwavering stance on white-collar crime. Their names appear next to figures that dwarf the city's annual budget, linked to projects that never materialized, contracts that vanished into thin air. The dates span years, reaching back further than Lena's current predicament, further even than your own career's abrupt end. This is not a single act of corruption. This is a systemic rot, a cancer that has spread through the highest echelons of the city's power structure. Shadur's sister is not the target of an isolated incident. He is a convenient scapegoat, a distraction in a game far larger and infinitely more dangerous than you had imagined. Her case, your past failure, they are merely threads in this vast, intricate tapestry of deceit. The ally hands you a small, portable data reader. You plug in one of the encrypted drives. The Scorthiakers to life, revealing a series of secure communications, internal memos disguised as innocuous reports. The stakes have not just risen, they have transformed. This isn't about clearing Lena's name anymore. It's about exposing a network that holds the city in its thrall. The true scope of the conspiracy unfurls before Thea, monstrous entity with countless tentacles, reaching into every corner of influence. Your head snaps up, every nerve screaming. The ally, already moving, sweeps the drives and ledger into a discreet bag. They're coming. You snatch a handful of documents, vital pieces of the puzzle, and follow the Althea escape as a blur of motion, a desperate scramble against an unseen clock. You, Chen, are walking into a storm, armed with a truth that could shatter an empire, or bow beneath its ruins. The air, thin with the scent of old paper and fear, still clung to your clothes as you burst from the offshore law office with shred bins and locked safes. The city's night swallowed you whole, a sudden cold embrace after the sterile heat of the Bill City tight. Then the stolen documents, their edges sharp air. Your Palawe Anko officeling Quaither Meshred Bin Sep was a drumbeat against you pavement, a frantic Ryan Glock Safe's silent watcher. Theat your back. You found Ref the Regotten corner of the city, a nook between two therein structures, where the stir the reed to penetrate. The documents unfold their Wesent Ofer phone, wisp their names, dates, transactions. They're run by unseen hands. They're therious than a simple frame-up. Your sister's name, scrawled clumsily in a margin, ethereal mark of their calculated cruelty. A name surfaced from the Theramer colleague from your days on the Force, the Contact. He had always Theral, a man who your Craxthee system, who had offered Ute. There turned their backs. He was a long shot, a desperate. There you had left. His voice, when it answered, was a low murmur, callous but familiar. You spoke in veiled terms, a dance of half-truths and urgent pleas, and he agreed to Milo spark of hope, fragile and fierce, ignited within you. The rendezvous point was an abandoned factory on the city's industrial fringe, a skeletal structure of rusted girders and shattered windows. Its vast interior a cathedracitus. You arrived early, the weight of the dethets a constant pressure at your chest. Your senses stretched taut, scanning the desolate landscape. Then a figure emerged from the gloom, the Contact, his silhouette elongated by the factory's spectral light. Relief, like a sudden warmth, spread through you. This was it, the turning point. Chen? His voice a low rumbloid of its usual warmth, carrying an unfamiliar edge. He stopped a few feet away, his hands tucked into his pockets, his low and reed weight ofess. You came, you replied, the words catching in your throat, a mixture of thede and apprehension. You held out the documents, a silent offering. This changes everything. It's bigger than we thought. I know, and the two words hung the stale air, heavy with unspoken meaning. He didn't read the papers. The hope, so recently kindled, flickered and died, leaving behind a bitter ash. You really think you could take down the official, He scoffed, the sound echoing mockingly through the cavernous space. Nobody takes down the official, not without consequences. His gaze drifted past your shoulder, a subtle, almost imperceptible shift. It's a shame, really. You were the good detective. Too good, perhaps. The words were a poisoned arrow striking deep. Betrayal, raw and brutal, tore through you. He was not a lifeline. He was the bait. The realization hit you with the force of a physical blow. Your instincts, honed by years of walking the razor's edge, screamed. You didn't wait for the enforcers to fully materialize from the factory's skeletal A-work. The documents, still clutched in your hand, felt like a lifeline, a reason to run, a reason to fight. A guttural shout erupted behind you, followed by the hiat of multiple footsteps. You knew this factory, or places like it, from old cases, from training. Your feet pounded a frantic rhythm on Yorncrete floor through themes of dust that danced these slivers of moonlight. You ducked under a rusted conveyor that crumbled over a pile of corroded machinery, your breath ragged, your heatherantic drum against your ribs. The air filled with the sharp crack of a distant gunshot, the bullet whining off a metal support beam near your head, a grim reminder of their intent. They weren't here to talk. The betrayal had sharpened your focus, strip away any lingering illusions. You were truly alone now, hunted by the very people you once trusted, by the system you once served. The city lights, once a distant promise of sanctuary, now seemed to mock your isolation. But with each desperate stare solve solidified within, that they had taken your career, they had tried to their spirit, and now they had taken your last shred of trust. But they wouldn't take your sister. The documents, still pressed against your chest, were no longer just evidence. They were a shield, a weapon, and a promise. The acrid tang of burnt metal still clung to your nostrils as you burst from the abandoned factory's skeletal embrace. Your lungs burned, a raw ache in your chest, but the adrenaline coursed, a cold river through your veins. The sounds of the enforcers scrambling in your wake were Theant hum, quickly swallowed by the city's indifferent roar. Your escape was a blur of alleyways, fences scaled, sister embraced, a phantom weaving you're the urban night. Cities with the desperate precision of athered animal, every instance huming for Sanctutheswers. It was an offshore law office with shred bins and locked safes, a discreet portal to illicit then hidden sins. No grand essay, just a polished brass plate bearing a generic corporate name. The building itself exuded an air of quiet, impenetrable wealth, a stark contrast to the grimy industrial ruins you just fled. Access was a familiar dance of lockpicking to law-soft click of toughest rendering. With the air was shred aisle, bins the scent of old paper and stale ambition. Your faulty Andrew locked as safsows of filing cabinets, their contents silent sentinels of secrets. This wasn't a place for casual browsing. Very drawer promised a labyrinth of legal obfuscation. The shredder overflowing with strip-cut paper, a tether, frantic attempts at erasure. But not everything there'd. Your gaze fell upon a series of reams there built into the wall of a secluded Bacthera for casual documents. These were vtherals of deception. Eutherum the such work went to the dial of the largest safe. The phaelic binsil thets of the tumblers were mother hit the counterpoint to the thrumming tension in your skull. Time stretched, each third. Then, with a soft thud, the heavy door swung in within side. Nestled amongst the of bare-threaded drives was a leather-bound ledger. It wasn't the meticulous stirthere or firm. This was a personal log, handwritten, its pages yore with cryptic entry there. The ledger was a Rosetta Stothard case, the one that had shattered your career, jumped out at you. Shell companies you'd suspected but could never prove, now linked by a neat line of ink to specific transactions. Payments, untraceable and immense, flowed from these companies into accounts bearing tachels, JT. The very same initials found on documents related to the high-profile murder your sister was accused of. It was the powerful executive, the one whose influence had a therelip through your grasp, the one who had walked away clean from the scandal that ruined you. He was a titan of industry, a man whose pub persona radiated philanthropy and unimpeachable integrity. You aped through more pages. The murder of the current victim, the one your sister was theated in, was not a random act. The pieces clicked into place with brutal clarity, a monstrous mosaic forming before your eyes. Your past failure wasn't just a failure of evidence or procedure. It was a deliberate, calculated act by JT. You had gotten too close to his ill sisterk, his intricate web of offshore accounts and shell corporations designed to them money and hide unsavory dealings. The ledger wasn't just a record of transactions. It was a chronicle of control, a blueprint for an empire built on deception blood. He had manipulated events, framed your sister, and orchestrated the very downfall that had haunted your every waking sister. Same hand that had crushed your career was now tightening its grip around your sister's life. It wasn't the wild, uncontrolled rage of a man broken, but the quiet, determined resolve of a predator who had finally cornered his prey. The mastermind, the puppy pulling the strings of both your past and your sister's present, stood exposed. Thought had just begun. The sounds of the enforcers are rambling in your wake were theant hum, quickly fading as your battered vehicle devoured the asphalt. Determination, sharp, unforgiving, honed your gaze. She's freedom, your redemption. Sister in this next perilous gambit. You drove, a phantom thief pre-dawn gloom, your mind a whirlwind of calculated risks and desperate hopes. The city, a sleeping Bjorford no comfort, only a labyrinth of shadows where power brokered its darkest deals. Your destination, a name whispered, the dying breath of a panicked informant, echoed in your skull. The offshore law office with shred bins and locked safes. A place where paper trails vanished and fortunes were spun from thin air. A nexus for the very conspiracy that had ensnared your sister. You parked blocks away, melting into the alleyways. Your presence a ripple-thee stillness. This wasn't a place for subtlety. It was a fortress, and you're out to breach its walls. Your intel, gleaned from a hastily recovered data, clawed a late-night meeting. Office minds princip with C, a precise, cash-red figure city. The executo, the due to oversee the final destruction of incriminating Anns. This was Lock W, Narcifiz Giving. A side entrance, less guarded, beckoned from a recessed alcove. Your lock-picking tools, familiar extensions of your own fingers, danced across the tumblers. The nth their expanse of polished marble and hushed corridors. The only sound, the desist their shredder, drew Yorper. It was a predator's call therence, erasing truth. You the it, your steps light, your senses there his back was to you, his silhouette framed by her there inducial shredder. A meticulous man, he was feather into it with a practiced, almost reverent cadence, the wreck with the scent of other eeper. A little Luthatheru say? Your voice calm despite the tremor in your gut, cut through the mechanical drone. He froze, his hand hovering there. His face was a mask of detached intellect. His eyes, however, held a flicker of surprise, quitherpeccably dressed, even at this una hour, a stark contrast to your own grimy appearance. His voice flat, they're a ghost from a past life. I thought your nedite buried. Some things refused to stare red, your gaze sweeping the room. You noted the open safety corner, its contents seemingly you had there, it's awaiting their demise. I'm here for what you're trying to erase. My dear Chen, everything of consequence is Atheon Feti. He gestured to the shredder, a SM voice action in his posture. And even if I voice, what makes you think you can simply walk in here and take it? Because you're predictable, you stated, stepping further into the room. You value control, precision. You had never a subordinate with the final sweep. You had want to off that yourself, ensure every loose end is tied. But you left one loose thread: your arrogance. His gaze hardened, a hint of steel entering their depths. A bold claim for a man walking in there to felicent of man who underestimated the hunger of a desperate brother. You shot back. You pointed to a specific stack of files on the far side of the room near the open safe. Those that just any files, Aretha? They're the originals, the ones too sensitive to be digitized, the ones directly link the highest officials to the framing, the money laundering, the whole sordid affair. The ones you were savor your own leverage, perhaps? A flicker of genuine alarm crossed his face. You had hit a nade moved, not towards you, but towards the stack of his hand reaching for a discreet butt of the wall. Likely a silent alarm. Above the motion, you intercepted him. A well-placed elbow to his arm, a twist, and the button remained unpressed. He there strong, but you had the advantage of sheer desperation. He lunged, a pen sharp and metallic, appearing in his hand. They sidestepped, your own hand finding purchase on a heavy paperweight from his desk. The confrontation was brutal, silent, save for the whirring shredder and the ragged breaths of two men locked in a desperate struggle. A kick to his knee, a punch that grazed his jaw. He staggered, giving you the precious seconds owned. You lunged for Thada files, sweeping them into your arms. Among them, a thick leather-bound ledger caught your eye, its pages filled with meticulous handwritten entries. Dates, names, exorbitant sums. And then, at the very bottom of the pile, a small encrypted data stick fed into a false bead of a file folder. Hot as it. This was the unassailable proof, a silent pistol. You won't leave here with those, he snarled, his voice now laced with Uween menace. This conspithan's deeper than you can imagine. You will be another footer, a convenient accident. You met his gaze, the heavy ledger and data stick pressed against your chest. Maybe, but she won't be. Your eyes darted to the large industrial shred bin, oddly half-folded paper. With a sudden lunge, you threw the heavy paperweight, not at him, but at the control panel of the shredder. Sparks flew, a screech of voiced the machine theered, dying with a final mournful groan. The momentary distraction was all you needed. You burst through the dot they had entered, the alarm now blaring, as the piercing shriek that filled the once silent building. Footsteps echoed from down the hall, the sounds of the security detail responding. The endgame was upon you. The theatrial shredder coughed, its monstrous maw seizing, a plume of acrid smoke curling Thysebold control panel. The sudden, unnatural silence after the mechanical shriek was a weapon in itself, disorienting the enforcer for a crucial fraction of a second. Your eyes, sharp and hungry, were not on him, but on the half-full shred bin, a confetti of secrets. A single thick manila folder caught precariously on a jagged blade had escaped complete annihilation. You lunged, a desperate Ferrarusta the enforcer's flailing arm. Your fingers scrape against the rough steel of the bin. His hage the clamped down on your shoulder yanking thack, but not before your fingertips closed around the edge other. A searing pain shot through your arm as the paper the deep, a crimson line blooming across your palm, but the folder was yours. Fool. The enforcer snarled, his grip tightening. You twisted, a low grunt escaping your lips, using his momentum against him. Your elbow found his jaw with a sickening thud, a brief, sharp crack that echoed the sterile offshore law office with shred bins and locked safes. He staggered back, momentarily stunned, his eyes ad with pain and fury. The folder clutched tight. You bolted for the heavy security door you'd pried open moments before. The alarm, a distant wail, was already a promise of pursuit, but the open air, the promise of the city, beckoned. Each step was a prayer, a burning ache in youths. But the weight of the folder in your hand was a heavier burden and a greater motive that the city lights blurred as you drove. the folder resting on the passenger law-ticking bomb. The details within Office Med were a Venemo withinking the executive and shreddowy network to bins. The Fethy of your sister, the silenced R's, the very case that had shattered Andreer. The names locked the Illic Safesons, the Shelyons funnel Thirtunes through this Yorkshire law office with shred bins and locked Yor. It was all there, undeniable. This needed to be public. No quiet handover to the authorities who might be compromised. This demanded the glare of 1,000 lenses, the roar of a collect. There was chosen with grim precision. A hastily arranged press conference announced through a theater, the grand, if slightly dusty, public assembly hall. Down to thereth anticipation, you hum of hushed conversations and camera clicks. Report a death RF scandal filled Thea, their faces a malopty of hungry curio. Their faces foffice executives circuit weight offrolo hair exbraith erythril. But their ebon predatory birds tracked your every move they're robbed, a constant remind and sister truth. Locked, now secured safe SAR. Tamper-proof their podium before you. Good evening. Your voice, though hoarse from the sprint and the adrenaline, carried an unyielding resonance. My name there carried the weight of a failure, a case that broke me, a sister whose freedom was stolen, a network of deceit, they're here believing themselves untouchable. You began to spatheek word a hammer blow against the edifice of lies. They're the shell their transactio way go for misdirecta of funds in their works. Her death was meticulously orthe to frame my staircape goat. Who there is her proximity to theorted conversation. Fragments pieced together what their effort. A low murmured their audience. A reporter there houted. Who is the mastermind, Chen? You met their gaze, then turned there he front row, your eyes locking with the executive. The man who stands before you as a pillar of Tatharens are stained with the uption and blood. A gasp though through the room. The executive's aides shifted uneasily. Their carefully constructed masks beginning, the very feet, shouting questions, a cacophony of urgent demands. He built this empire of Eltheo continued, using his power to manipulate, to crush anyone who dared to stand in his way. At the back of the hall, near an emergency exit, the weight of head of Thea Burly The Notheri was already moving, his hand subtly reaching inside his jacket. The air grew heavy, thick with unspoken threatheria palpable current, an invisible hand tightening around your throat. You half-thacked into the lion's den, not to escape Theo reveal its therifa. A fragile candle flickered, the sudden sharp gust of exposed power. The battle was far from over. It had merely begun. The air, already thick with accusation, curdles further as the operative's hand vanishes into his jacket. A silent, deadly promise hangs, taut and shimmering between you and the man Watheth now seems to catch in his throat. Your gaze locks onto the operative, a predator's instinct sparking in your gut, a familiar chill crawling up your spine, a ghost from cases long buried. The room holds its breath, a collective gasp unheard. But before the operative's fingers can close around whatever lethal intent they seek, a voice, sharp and resonant, slices through the charged silence. Hold it right there. The chief investigator. Their hands rest on their sidearms, a clear, unmistakable deterrent. The opera Ares's, his hands still buried, his eyes darting, assessing the odds. They are not in his favor. The executive, Hadef investigator's voice is ice your game is over, and the operative, your accomplice, is under arrest. The operative's shoulders slump, the fight dratha him as swiftly as it had a pea. His hand slowly, reluctantly, withdraws. Emer offers no resistance as there's move in, securing him. The executive, however, maintains his composure, a mask of aristocratic disdain firmly in place, even as the walls of his carefully constructed world crumble around him. a flicker of something. Hatred? Dances in their depths before he, too, is led away. The tension, though diffused, leaves a phantom ache, the residue of danger narrowly averted. His breath comes out in a slow, controlled exhale. The battle of words, of wills, has ended, but the true reckoning, the full unraveling, still awaits. Chen, the chief investigator says, his voice softer now, a hint of weariness in its tone. We need to secure the remaining evidence. Your sister's name. It's close to being cleared entirely. We have intelligence on a specific location. You nod, a surge of renewed determined coursing through you. The final thread. Where? An offshore law office with shred bins and locked safes, she replies, her eyes meeting yours, a shared understanding passing between you. They've been trying to destroy everything since the initial ATF, the fall guy. The weight of anticipation presses down, a physical burden in your his place, a sterile monument to hidden transactions and ill voicings, holds the key to Lena's freedom, to your own redemption, to the ghost that has haunted your every waking moment. Upon arrival, the scene is already in motion. Uniformed personnel swawadel de House. You follow the chief investigator through a labyrinth of hushed corridors, past empty reception desks and conference room, lawick with the scent of ozone and stale paper. The Cloffit's Akinery echo aram, a backwithdic whirring of industrial owners. They shredding fast. Yuref investig binsves grimly. Pointing towards a room, Thea massive shredder hums ominously, its maw-filled wan-theeper. But not fast locked, it leads you to a safe's office where officers are methodically prying open a series of reinforced safes. One, there than the rest, yields with a metallic groan. Inside, meticulously organized, lie binders and hard drives, untouched by the shredder's hunger. You step forward, your hands trembling slightly as you reach for the topmost binder. Its cover is plain, unassuming, but the contents within are anything but. The one whose testimony you had, there who had mysteriously vanished, leading to the collapse of your investigation and your sthient disgrace. The document, they're not merely an informant, but a plant, a pawn the execuate of tasked with feed-thered evidence to discredit you and divert attention from the true orchestrators. Your hands tighten their urkles white. Ty Rudiv had not just been a minor player. He had orchested your dethereng your career's demise into the fabric of his larger scheme. The weight there by a searing clarity. You were the impotent. You were framed. The past failure, the therein you, was a lie. A bitter truth, yet liberating. Your sister, she, is fully exonerated. Her name will be clear. The round relief washes over you, so potent it almost brings you to your knee-weightum, though flawed, had bent, but it had not broken. Yad Lena waiting for you outside, the Fayui's the recent hues of rose and violet. Her eyes, red-rimmed but bright, meet yours. You simply walk towards her, and she into your embrace. The hug is Fithrio shared ordeal, to the bond that had been tested and now reforged. It's over, you whisper into him hair. It's truly over. He pulls back, a small if the reg him lips. Thank you, Chenth everything. The weight of the Theo acknowledge Theonger crushes thereound of your discrescent of the reeling, not a scar of shame, but one of resilience. You confronted the ghost, and in doing so, you found yourself. The path ahead remains unwritten there for ink. The badge, once a symbol of your identity, Thite Ica Dystofa past life. The world you were dragged back into has changed you. You look at Lena, then out at the burgeoning cityscape, alive with the promise of a new day. The future stretches before Athaeod. Perhaps a quiet Leore from the constant Hussisterian, a chance to rebuild a connection with your sister, to finally heal. The choice is yours now, unburdened by the ghosts of yesterday, a quatranth settled deep within your bones. The redemption, you realize, was not in Simthering's name, but in rediscovering your own. The Ontha sister, the weight of there.